Last year, while hiking through the mountains of Okinawa, I met Dr. Alka Patel. She had the glowing skin and effortless stride of someone in her early 30s. When I asked her age, she said, "I'm 52. I stopped mid-step, my jaw nearly hitting the forest floor. But then she leaned in and added, "But I'm also 23. I was completely confused. She explained that after a near-death experience at 39 caused by organ failure, she completely redesigned her life by using specific micro-habits to re-engineer her health. Today, her birth certificate says 52, but her cells are biologically 23. That interaction sent me on a global hunt for a pattern to further decode the daily rituals of the blue zones. These are rare pockets of the world where the biological age of the entire community is decades below their real age. They don't just live longer, they stay young until the very end. It turns out, age reversal isn't a miracle. Your biological youth depends on just 3 major systems. 1. Nitric oxide, the youth molecule that is responsible for improving blood circulation, glowing skin, and high energy. 2. Mitochondria, the power plants that generate raw energy for your muscles and skin. And 3. Autophagy, the internal cleanup crew that recycles cellular waste. I've distilled everything I learned from Dr. Patel, these global communities, and elite performers into 7 simple habits that optimize all 3. First, we begin with a non-negotiable 12-minute morning routine. This sequence is used by Dr. Patel and people of the Blue Zones to awaken the nitric oxide supply chain every morning. This routine alone reverses visible aging, boosts fat-burning hormone, and recharges your energy. Phase 1, the sensory prime. Start with oil pulling, swishing a teaspoon of coconut oil while standing barefoot on the earth, grounding, in the morning sunlight. The oil pulling balances your oral microbiome, where nitric oxide production begins. The grounding reduces cortisol, and the sunlight resets your circadian rhythm. Phase 2, cellular superhydration. 2 minutes. Spit the oil, then drink 16 ounces of filtered water with half a squeezed lemon and a pinch of sea salt. This provides vitamin C and electrolytes that your supply chain needs to repair collagen and flush the overnight waste. Phase 3, the nitric oxide flush. 3 minutes. Perform 10 squats, 10 overhead presses, and 10 trunk rotations while practicing strict nasal breathing. Nitric oxide is produced in the nasal passages. By moving while breathing through your nose, you are manually pumping that youth molecule into your brain and muscles. Phase 4, facial architecture. 2 minutes. A quick lymphatic drainage massage on your jawline and neck. This ensures the supply chain is open and the nutrients you just consumed actually reach your facial tissues. Let's now look at the first habit that protects your cellular power plants. Habit 1, the metabolic break. Most people think that to stay fit and look young, they need to follow a restrictive, miserable diet. But the problem isn't just what you eat, it's the metabolic storm you create every time you eat too much. Inside your cells are tiny power plants called mitochondria. When they are overwhelmed by fuel, they leak exhaust in the form of free radicals. These free radicals act like microscopic shrapnel, tearing through your DNA and damaging the collagen that keeps your skin firm. This is why people who overeat often look puffy or aged. They are literally oxidizing from the inside out. In Okinawa, Japan, they use a 2,500-year-old habit called hara hachi bu, eating until you are only 80% full. This 20% gap is the secret to biological youth. Dr. Bradley Wilcox, one of the lead investigators of the Okinawa Centenarian study, found that the elders in Okinawa typically consume about 1,200 calories per day, compared to the 2,500 plus consumed by the average Westerner. The Okinawans have a low body mass index throughout their lives. They don't just live longer, they stay younger longer. They have the cleanest arteries in the world and the lowest rates of hormone-dependent cancers because their insulin levels stay low and stable. High insulin is the primary driver of aging. It signals the body to store fat and stop repairing cells. When you stop at 80%, your body stays in repair and burn mode rather than store and decay mode. Another famous 20-year study on rhesus monkeys by the University of Wisconsin showed 2 different fates. Group A ate until full, and by the end of the study, they had saggy skin, lost their hair, and suffered from high rates of diabetes and heart disease. Group B ate 30% less. At the same chronological age, they looked decades younger, with thick fur, tight skin, and healthy brains. You don't need to count every calorie. You just need to learn the feeling of being satisfied rather than full. If you can master this one habit, you aren't just losing weight, you are turning off the primary inflammatory switch that makes your face and body look older. Habit 2, The sedentary athlete trap. We have been sold a lie about fitness. We think that if we sit in a chair for 8 hours and then suffer through a grueling 1-hour CrossFit session, we are fit. But research led by Dr. Mark Hamilton at the Pennington Research Center revealed a dark truth. You cannot exercise away the damage of 8 hours of sitting. Inside your muscles, there is an enzyme called lipoprotein lipase, LPL. Think of LPL as a vacuum cleaner that sucks fat and sugar out of your bloodstream to be used as fuel. When you sit for just 60 to 90 minutes, the LPL activity in your lower body drops by 90 to 95%. Your fat-burning switch is effectively turned off. Even if you run 5 miles later that evening, you cannot undo the fact that your blood was thick with unmanaged fats and sugars all day. This is why the average young adults have a stiff back and a slow metabolism, despite going to the gym 3 times a week. They are sedentary athletes. On the other hand, in the blue zones, the environment nudges people into movement. They garden, they walk to the market, they knead bread. This is called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This low-level, constant activity keeps your lymphatic system flowing. Unlike your heart, your lymphatic system, the waste disposal of your body, doesn't have a pump. It only moves when you move. Dr. James Levine of the Mayo Clinic pioneered the study of NEAT. He put sensors on lean people and obese people and tracked every micro-movement for weeks. The results showed that the leanest, most active-looking people were the ones who stood, paced, and fidgeted for an average of 2.5 hours more per day than the sedentary group, and as a result of this natural movement, they burned an extra 350 to 500 calories a day without even realizing it. If you want to reverse your biological age, you have to adopt the blue zone approach, incorporating 10-minute movement bursts, essentially keeping your LPL enzymes active and your lymphatic system flushing. Break the 8-hour freeze. Take a call while walking. Use a standing desk. Keep your body in a constant biological hum. You don't need to be a marathon runner. You just need to stop being a statue. Habit 3, environmental shielding, the Korean philosophy. Most people think of aging as something that happens to them from the inside out. But for the people of South Korea, home to some of the most biologically young-looking people on Earth, aging is seen as an external attack that must be blocked. In the West, we often wait until we see a wrinkle to buy an expensive cream. In Seoul, the philosophy is prevention over cure. They understand that UV radiation and urban pollution are responsible for nearly 80% of the visible signs of aging. But this isn't just about vanity. To see the physical proof that aging is an environmental choice, we only have to look at a landmark case study published in the New England Journal of Medicine. It featured a 69-year-old delivery driver who had spent 28 years with the left side of his face exposed to the sun through his truck window, while the right side remained in the shade. The difference was staggering. The sun-exposed side looked 80 years old, deeply wrinkled, leathery, and sagging, while the shaded side looked 50. His genetics were identical, but his environment had overwritten his DNA. This happens because UV damage creates senescent cells, also known as zombie cells. These are cells that have been damaged to the point where they stop dividing, but they refuse to die. Instead, they linger in your tissue, secreting toxic chemicals that infect the healthy cells around them, causing them to age prematurely. They literally stain your internal environment with inflammation. By wearing a high-quality SPF every single day, even on cloudy days, you are quite literally preventing the creation of these age-accelerating zombies. But the shield isn't just external. In Ikaria, Greece, they drink wild mountain tea packed with polyphenols that act as an internal sunscreen, protecting the DNA from the inside out. Shield your body from the outside and fuel it with shields from the inside. Habit 4, the glymphatic flush. We live in a culture that treats sleep deprivation as a badge of honor. But if you want to lose your edge and look 10 years older, the fastest way to do it is to skip your rest. Cristiano Ronaldo famously works with an elite sleep coach to master 90-minute recovery cycles because he knows his body cannot repair itself while he is awake. Inside your brain, there's a trash disposal system called the glymphatic system. Research from the University of Rochester found that this system is 10 times more active during deep sleep. Your brain cells actually shrink, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash away the toxic waste that builds up during the day. If you don't get deep sleep, this waste stays in your system, leading to the brain fog and dullness most 30-year-olds think is just a normal part of getting older. More importantly, deep sleep is when your body releases human growth hormone. This is your natural youth drug that repairs muscle and keeps your skin thick and elastic. Without it, you are literally starving your body of its own repair kit. To reclaim your prime, you need a digital sunset. All blue light screens off 1 hour before bed. This allows your natural melatonin to signal the deep clean to begin. Consistent sleep isn't just rest, it's a nightly biological upgrade. Habit 5. Hormesis, the survival trigger. One of the greatest dangers to your youth is comfort. We live in climate-controlled rooms, sit in padded chairs, and eat soft food. But your body was designed for the wild. It was designed to handle challenges. When you are too comfortable for too long, your body assumes it no longer needs to be strong. So it begins to down-regulate its repair systems. The most fit people on Earth, from elite athletes to the centenarians of the blue zones, embrace a concept called hormesis. This is the idea that a microdose of stress actually makes you younger. If you want to see the absolute frontier of this science, look at the case of Dr. Joseph Dituri. In 2023, this 55-year-old researcher spent 100 days living in a pressurized pod 30 feet below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. When he finally emerged, the medical results shocked the scientific community. His inflammatory markers had dropped by half. His cholesterol had plummeted. But most importantly, his telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of your DNA that usually shrink as you age, had grown 20% longer. Biologically, Dituri had reversed his age by 10 years in just 3 months. Why did this happen? It wasn't magic. It was a massive dose of hormesis. By living in a high-pressure environment, his body was forced into a survival mode upgrade. The pressure signaled his cells to produce massive amounts of stem cells and triggered a deep cellular cleanup. While most people are rusting in the comfort of their air-conditioned living rooms, Dituri's body was being literally forged under pressure. Now, you don't need to live in a submarine for 100 days to get these results. The goal is to find microdoses of this pressure. When you jump into a cold shower for 60 seconds or push your heart rate to the limit for a 1-minute sprint, you are sending a survival signal to your DNA. You are telling your body, the environment is getting tough. We need to upgrade our hardware. This triggers autophagy, a process where your body hunts down old zombie cells and recycles them into brand new energy. It is the closest thing we have to a biological reset button. You don't need an undersea pod. You just need to stop being so comfortable. Habit 6, the vibe factor. Most self-improvement advice focuses on the gym and the kitchen, but it ignores the social atmosphere you live in. Biologically, your body cannot distinguish between a tiger in the bushes and a toxic boss or a stressful social circle. Both trigger the release of cortisol. In Sardinia and Okinawa, people don't go through life alone. They have moais, small groups of lifelong friends who share their burdens. This creates a constant background hum of oxytocin and serotonin, which are the direct biological antidotes to cortisol. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone. It breaks things down. It eats your muscle tissue, thins your skin, and causes visceral fat to build up around your organs. If you are chronically stressed or lonely, you are effectively melting your youth from the inside. People who look remarkably young often have one thing in common. They have a lightness to them. They have a community that discharges their stress. To reverse your biological age, you must audit your social circle. Your biology is the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The most powerful evidence for this isn't just a theory. It is the result of the Harvard study of adult development, the longest running study on human health ever conducted. For over 80 years, researchers tracked the lives of 724 men and their families. Their conclusion was staggering. The single strongest predictor of who would stay healthy and biologically younger into their 80s was not their cholesterol levels or their grit. It was the quality of their relationships. Those who were most satisfied in their relationships at age 50 were the healthiest at age 80. Loneliness, the study found, kills as effectively as smoking or alcoholism because it keeps the body in a constant state of emergency mode, preventing cellular repair. Habit 7, the mental spark, Ikigai. The final habit is the most subtle, yet it acts as the master switch for your DNA. It's the Japanese concept of ikigai, your reason for being. Most people in their 30s begin to settle. They stop taking risks, they stop learning truly new skills, and they fall into a repetitive loop. But here's the biological danger. When your brain stops being challenged, it begins to physically prune itself. This mental shrinking eventually manifests as a physical slowing, a shorter gait, a slumped posture, and a loss of that vibrant look in the eyes. The research to cement this is profound. Dr. Patricia Boyle and her team at Rush University Medical Center tracked over 900 people for several years to study the link between purpose in life and mortality. Their findings were staggering. Individuals with a high sense of ikigai were 50% less likely to die during the study period than those who felt aimless. But even more fascinating was what they found in the brain. Even when some participants' brains showed physical signs of plaques, the markers usually associated with Alzheimer's and aging, those with a strong sense of purpose still performed cognitively like much younger individuals. Their ikigai acted as a cognitive reserve, a biological shield that allowed their brain to stay young and functional even when the physical hardware was under attack by time. This happens because the act of learning and having a why triggers the release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Scientists call this miracle grow for the brain. BDNF is the high-octane fertilizer that keeps your neurons from dying and encourages the growth of new connections. In the blue zones, there is no word for retirement. A 90-year-old woman in Nicoya doesn't see herself as old. She sees herself as a vital part of her family's growth. This signal tells the body, we are still necessary. We are still in the development phase. For a 30-year-old, the lesson is clear. If you want to stay biologically young, you must remain a student. Whether it's mastering a new sport, a complex language, or a demanding business skill, staying in a growth phase is a non-negotiable requirement for your repair systems to stay active. In the world of biology, as long as you are growing, you aren't aging. Your why is the fuel that keeps the cellular cleanup crew on duty. When you look at Dr. Alka Patel or a 100-year-old hiker in Greece, you aren't looking at luck. You are looking at the result of a specific architecture of life. These people don't wake up and try to stay young. They have simply built a world where healthy choices are the default. They eat until 80% full because that is the culture. They move all day because their environment demands it. They protect their skin, they prioritize their rest, and they keep their mental spark alive because they have a purpose. You don't need to move to a Mediterranean island to reclaim your youth. You don't need a team of world-class coaches. You just need to stop participating in the habits that are quietly making everyone else old.